This is 9 News with Davina Smith.
Good morning. We start with the latest news out of the US, where a man is in custody after shots were fired while former President Donald Trump was playing golf at his club in Florida. We'll go straight to our US correspondent Alison Petrowski. Ali, the suspect has now been identified.
Yeah, good morning to you, Davina. Ryan Wesley Routh, the 58-year-old construction worker from Hawaii. He does have a criminal record, Davina. He has been arrested 8 times for previous minor offences. He had also posted a lot of anti-Trump rhetoric in the past, but now he finds himself a suspected alleged assassin. Donald Trump was golfing between holes 4 and 5 at the Trump National Golf Course in Florida, which is in West Palm Beach, just north of his Mar-a-Lago residence. One of his Secret Service teams had travelled ahead and was scoping out the next hole, as they tend to do. They send advanced teams forward, and that specific agent spotted a rifle butting through the fence. That officer, that Secret Service agent, engaged in fire. He began shooting at Routh. Routh escaped the scene, fled in an SUV. At the scene itself, officials later found 2 backpacks, an AK-47 rifle with a scope, and also a GoPro attached to the fence. Now, out of all of these remarkable events today, one of the most remarkable was the fact that one witness had the presence of mind to take a photo of the car that Routh fled in and take a photo of the license plate and send it to authorities. And that is how officials managed to apprehend Routh so quickly.
We were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy.
Davina, as we go to air, a statement has just been released from the White House from current US President Joe Biden, where he says, "I commend the work of the Secret Service and their law enforcement partners for their vigilance and their efforts to keep the former president and those around him safe. I am relieved that the former president is unharmed. There is no place for political violence or for any violence ever in our country, and I have directed my team to continue to ensure that the Secret Service has every resource, capability and protective measure necessary to ensure the former president's continued safety." Davina, the sheriff had said that Ralph had a calm demeanour when he was pulled over, that he complied with authorities, and now officials have a live suspect in custody. So local police, state police and also the FBI will grill him thoroughly, question him over the days to come to try and understand whatever motive he had, Davina.
It's an extraordinary story, Akali. Thank you. Well, the federal government has announced it will build thousands of new affordable homes as the first round of funding starts to flow from its signature housing fund. We'll take you live to our federal politics reporter, Amanda Kopp. Amanda, good morning. How much of an impact is this expected to have on housing affordability?
Well, Davina, Labor says it will help supply houses to people who need it the most. The government will build more than 13,500 new homes in coming years, with around 40% due to start construction in the next financial year. A big chunk of those will be social housing for people at risk of homelessness and for families fleeing domestic violence. The other portion will be affordable homes that the government wants to preference for essential workers like nurses, teachers and police. After years of chronic underinvestment in social housing, with waiting lists blowing out to the tens of thousands, this is welcome news. But the government is facing roadblocks in the Senate with 2 other pieces of housing legislation. One called the Help to Buy scheme that will see the government pay for a share of the house to help buyers get a foot in the door. The other bill will encourage construction companies to build more long-term rentals. But the Greens and the Coalition say it won't make a dent in the affordability crisis.
It will just drive up house prices for the tiny fraction of houses that it's likely to deliver.
These 2 bills that are before the Senate today aren't going to make a whit of difference to the number of people that own their own home.
They're obstructionists. They're wielding their power around there like they are running the country, and I think many of us have had a gutful of it.
You can't say that you're for more housing while you oppose everything that occurs to boost supply.
Those 2 bills are currently before the Senate, and Davina, the government hopes they can reach some sort of deal by the end of the week.
Fingers crossed. OK, Amanda, thank you. New opinion polling shows a popularity boost for the coalition, enough to lift it into a minority government at the next election. Labor falling short again as cost of living pressures lead to a loss of voter confidence. The next election is due by May next year. Well, Sydney police are appealing for witnesses to a brawl at a core stadium after the Bulldogs defeated the Seagulls of the Sea last night. Jack Arn has this report.
Western Sydney detectives are this morning looking into a brawl that broke out in the private suite section of a core stadium. Vision shows the tense situation playing out. Watch as spectators tussle and an official with a headset moves in to break it up. Officers patrolling the stands raced over, finding the group near the elevators in the moments after the elimination final. Police this morning confirming that 2 men were hurt in the incident. A 29-year-old from Auburn was transported to Concord Hospital so doctors and nurses there could treat his facial injuries, while a 30-year-old man from Greenacre suffering from extensive facial injuries refused medical help, deciding to go home instead of going to the hospital. No one has been arrested or charged.
And apologies, we should have said that the Seagulls defeated the Bulldogs in that game yesterday. Well, a crash between a truck and car has claimed the life of a driver in Melbourne's north. The vehicle collided on Old Western Freeway in Harkins just before 8 p.m. The driver, an only occupant of the car, died at the scene. A pedestrian has been seriously injured after being struck by a minibus outside Sydney International Airport this morning. The 75-year-old man taken to hospital in a serious but stable condition after he was hit along Departure Plaza at Mascot. Other travellers being told to avoid the area. The driver of the minibus is now assisting police with inquiries. The Victorian Ambulance Union has doubled down on calls to fix the state's broken 000 emergency system. It comes after an elderly man died in Melbourne, waiting hours for help. Isabella Staskowski has more.
Well, Victoria's ambulance crisis has taken yet another devastating turn. A 69-year-old Surrey Hills man lost his life while waiting for emergency crews. It was in the early hours of Sunday morning. Neighbours heard him yelling for help. They called 000, told the wait time would be some 40 to 60 minutes, but it would take 4 hours for crews to arrive. By that point, sadly, the man had passed away. On Saturday night to Sunday morning, 50 crews were off Victorian roads due to a spike in sick leave, according to the union, which says ambulance workers are burnt out.
When you don't look after an emergency service workforce, where you don't take care of them, you don't support them well, eventually there is a flow-on effect to the care that they provide, and that occurs for all emergency services. We need them there, and they can't turn out if they're burnt out.
Normally there are about 120 crews out and working, and with this shortage at one point only 1% of crews were actually available during that period. There is an ongoing dispute between workers and the government, calling for better conditions, including a better workload to avoid future exhaustion.
9 News has obtained exclusive video of the moment thieves are caught midway through a Brisbane home robbery. Andrea Crothers has more.
3 thieves remain on the run this morning after a home invasion in Brisbane South. The offenders captured on camera using a crowbar before kicking the front door in. They ransacked the house all in broad daylight, only this time they're interrupted by the elderly couple who live there when they return home. The quick-thinking pair attempt to park the thieves' getaway car in, but are unsuccessful. It comes as the Queensland opposition today unveils its latest election pitch to crack down on youth crime. The Liberal Nationals announcing a $40 million proposal to open 2 youth justice schools in a bid to reduce repeat offenders. Under the plan, the facilities, to be based in the Cairns region and southeast Queensland, will offer 12+ hours of supervision 5 days a week for high-risk teens in grades 7 to 9. The schools will deliver behavioural reform, one-on-one mentoring, as well as parental coaching.
In the news ahead, the death toll rises. Dozens missing as torrential rain smashes parts of Europe. Plus 50-cent fares, cheap transport locked in for Queenslanders in a major pre-election pledge. And the touching tribute to the People's Princess from Aussie actress Emma Debicki as she cleans up at the Emmys. Australian actress Elizabeth Debicki has taken home an Emmy for her portrayal of Diana, Princess of Wales in The Crown. It's the second time the actress's work in the Netflix series has been nominated in the category.
Playing this part based on this unparalleled, incredible human being has been my great privilege. It has been a gift. Thank you so very much.
Leading the nominations, the series Shogun with 25 nominations. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is standing his ground against billionaire Elon Musk, vowing to go head-to-head with tech giants in his crusade to protect Australian children online, saying he will not give in to bullies as he plans to enforce stricter age limits online amid a soaring mental health crisis among young people. In a major win for Queensland commuters, 50-cent public transport fares are here to stay, regardless of who wins the October state election. Mia Glover reports.
Well, it's been nearly 2 months since the measure of 50-cent public transport fares came in here in Queensland, and it looks like it's going to be here to stay regardless of who wins the October state election. Premier Stephen Miles saying that he wants to keep it in place long term beyond the election, even though this was initially a 6-month trial. He says it's been very successful. Patronage has gone up by around 19% just in southeast Queensland, and it's saving commuters around $37 million in just that 5 weeks alone. But what he wasn't expecting is that the opposition leader, LNP leader, David Crisafulli, also jumped on board with this, saying that regardless of who wins the election, he will also bring it in. So it is a win for commuters. Stephen Miles spoke to Today a little earlier.
Well, they do agree with most of the things that I announced, but this is one that's really special to me. The real surprise for me has been weekend patronage, families using the train to get down to the Gold Coast or go to South Bank, or I was at New Farm Park yesterday and it was packed full of people who'd caught the ferry there.
But not every Queenslander is convinced that this is a good idea or that it will stay long term post the election.
Freebie, let's say, whatever you want to call it, it is pretty cheap, it is pretty good, but they're not going to keep it.
The state government is assuring taxpayers that they won't be burdened with the bill. Instead, they say this is all being funded by operational state budget revenue.
At least 41 people have been injured in a Russian strike on an apartment building in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. The aerial bomb hit the 10th floor, with the fire spreading across 4 stories. 12 other buildings were damaged in the blast, with many residents losing their possessions. Storm Boris has caused death and destruction across parts of Europe, and there is more bad weather to come. The details from our Europe correspondent Jessica Millward.
Well, these are record-breaking and catastrophic floods that are unfolding across Central and Eastern Europe right now. In Poland, a dam burst its banks after days of relentless rain. That sent water flowing down the main street of the community and to towns downstream. In Czech Republic, there's been a number of really dramatic rescues with people needing to be winched to safety. There were also rescues by boat, and local authorities are urging people to start heeding the warnings because rescue crews are putting their own lives at risk to save people who refused to evacuate. Across the floods, several people have died and many more unaccounted for, so the death toll is expected to rise. The army has been called in. They will be greatly needed during the unfolding emergency and also for the clean-up. The situation is changing very quickly. This is impacting Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Poland, and also Austria. The very popular capital of Vienna has started to flood. Power is out in some areas and subway stations have been closed down. This wild weather brought about because of Storm Boris, and he's not done with Europe yet, with more rain expected in the coming days.
Air raid sirens have sounded across Israel after Yemen's Houthi rebels launched a ballistic missile. It landed near Tel Aviv's main airport and sparked a forest fire, with the Israeli Prime Minister warning the group will pay a heavy price. There are no reports of casualties or damage at this stage. Cooler temperatures have started to help firefighters in Los Angeles as they work to contain several wildfires. The largest, called the Bridge Fire, started more than a week ago and has already destroyed 19 structures. Donald Trump's running mate JD Vance has doubled down on claims that migrants in an Ohio town are stealing and eating residents' pets, despite city officials repeatedly debunking the claims as lies and rumours.
I hear you saying that they're baseless, but I'm not repeating them because I invented them out of thin air. I'm repeating them because my constituents are saying these things are happening. I mean,
but there's no
yesterday,
evidence.
A video came out of a migrant 30 miles away eating a cat.
The Haitian community says the claims have caused fear and confusion among Springfield residents, the mayor reassuring the public that pets are safe. Former US presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy has announced he's being investigated for chopping the head off a dead whale with a chainsaw 20 years ago. The 70-year-old bizarrely used a campaign event for Donald Trump in Arizona to say he'd received a letter from National Marine Fisheries that they were investigating him for collecting a whale specimen. Days after completing the world's first commercial spacewalk, the crew of SpaceX Polaris Dawn are back on Earth. The capsule made splashdown off the coast of Florida after its 4 passengers travelled further into space than any humans have in more than 50 years. NASA says the mission represents a giant leap forward for commercial sector. Well, coming up, why this taxi ended up careering through the front window of a Perth restaurant. Could Prince William and Harry's hatchet be buried? The pair's rare show of public support. And in sport, Oscar Piastri climbs atop the podium once again. Police have charged a taxi passenger with viciously assaulting his driver in Perth. Police say there was a disagreement between the two before the sedan mounted a footpath and smashed into a Northbridge restaurant, injuring 4 people. The 37-year-old's due in court today. 2 people are on the run after leading police on a stolen car chase through Sydney's south. The pair spotted driving dangerously at Waterfall before a pursuit was initiated, later brought to an end in Peakhurst after tyre spikes were deployed. The driver and passenger, though, are still on the run. In sport, Bulldogs coach Cameron Ciraldo says his side's heartbreaking finals exit was a crucial lesson in how close games come. Positive it will only help them in the future.
We've been on a really cool journey and done some really good things, and feel like we've awoken a really strong fan base and gave them a team they can be proud of. So, yeah, there's a lot of good things there, but there's some great lessons there tonight in terms of, hopefully we get back in next year and what it needs to look like.
Finals action kicks off again on Friday night with the Sharks and Cowboys clashing in the first semi-final at Allianz Stadium in Sydney. To AFL News, Geelong key forward Jeremy Cameron says he's in some of the best form of his career ahead of the Cats' preliminary final showdown with Port Adelaide.
I think that's key, the legs and the body's in fantastic shape. So, it's nice to be, that gives you, you're halfway there sort of thing. But, I'm feeling really good and ready to go.
Veteran Tom Hawkins is pushing for selection this week, trying to return to the field before retiring at season's end. And Postecoglou's Spurs have slumped to consecutive Premier League losses, beaten by bitter rivals Arsenal 1-0. Newcastle jumped to third on the table with a 2-1 win over Wolves. The Magpies enjoying their best start to the season in 28 years. Well, Oscar Piastri has won his second F1 Grand Prix, claiming a dramatic victory in Azerbaijan, prevailing in a fierce battle with Ferrari's Charles Leclerc. The young Aussie defending his position on multiple occasions in what he admits were some of the more stressful laps of his career.
There's no such thing as a relaxing lap around here, so it was hard work, but no, I think that definitely goes down as one of my better races of my career.
There was late drama for Red Bull's Sergio Perez and Ferrari's Carlos Sainz colliding in the second last lap, ending their hopes of a podium finish. Well, there seems to be a slight thaw in the frosty relationship between Princes William and Harry. William and wife Catherine have publicly wished Prince Harry happy birthday for the first time in 3 years. It was a post reshared from the royal family's account on X with a short and sweet caption wishing the Duke of Sussex a very happy 40th birthday today. And the claws have been clipped on Mackay Regional Council, which has moved to evict Precious the cat from a hotel. Locals rallied around Coolmara Hotel's fuzziest publican, who had purred her way into the hearts and minds for 14 years before council found the arrangement breached food and safety regulations. So a petition with thousands of signatures called on the Health Minister to issue an official pardon, and it was done. Stay with us, your weather details are next. To the national weather forecast for you now. Today it's looking sunny in Brisbane, reaching a top of 23 degrees. Clear skies also in Sydney, warming up to 20. Partly cloudy in Canberra, 17 degrees. In Melbourne, a shower or two, 15 degrees. Partly cloudy in Hobart, 14. Cloud about in Adelaide, 17 degrees. Sunshine and a top of 25 on the way for Perth, and a late shower or two for Darwin, and 34 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly fine in Brisbane, 24 the top. Sydney, mostly sunny and 21 degrees. Canberra, it's spring, but you're going to get a morning frost in the morning, down to -1, warming up to 18 degrees. Melbourne, partly cloudy and 17. Cloudy for Hobart. Adelaide, mostly sunny and 19 degrees. And Perth reaching a top of 27. Looking ahead to Wednesday's forecast, Brisbane, cloudy and 25 degrees. 26 and sunny in Sydney. Canberra, clear skies and 18 degrees. A sunny day, but maybe a shower for Melbourne, reaching a top of 21. And that is Nine's Morning News. We'll be back at 4 p.m. with your afternoon news. I'm Davina Smith. Thanks for your company. We'll see you soon.